Well, good morning, everybody. How's it going? This is Dylan Talks Tone live show every Thursday. Well, that's what we've started it. And for those of you that are new to the channel, or maybe just catching this in replay, we do this every Thursday morning at 8 Eastern Time. And we take viewer questions from the internets. If you are um, not able to make it live and you have to watch it in replay, one of the ways that you can get a question featured is go over to patreon.com/slash Dylan Talks Tone, and you can ask your question there, and I will make sure that I feature it in the live thing. If you are live, using the super chat thing is super cool because we have a lot of questions that flow through this comment section, and I could only get to a couple of them last week. So super chats always help out with that and making sure that you're able to get your question answered in there too. If I don't know the answer to it, I will find the answer to it and come back to it later. Or I'll ask somebody. So we try to be as accurate as we can about this. And then as soon as we get done with the first couple FAQs, then we're going to get to this Telecaster test thing that we did this week and a couple other things going on in Dylan Talks Tone Land. But this Telecaster test thing was very interesting. And so, but anyways, before we do any of that, let's ask a couple of, let's get a couple of these questions answered from Patreon. I want to make sure that I do that right away because, they're helping to support us. And so I want to make sure that they get the questions answered. Ivan Shank asks, I recently bought a set of Fender Tex-Mex Telecaster pickups. There's no metal base plate under the bridge pickup. Is that plate really integral to the Tele tone? Uh, the easy answer is yes. That steel plate changes the magnetic field of the pickup, changes the inductance properties of the pickup, completely changes everything about it. And there's a lot of people that would say, well, I put a metal plate on the bottom of mine and it didn't work. I was actually on some Telecaster forums earlier this week and, investigating this question a little bit further just to kind of see what people were saying. And a lot of people were using various metals, but none of them were ferrous. Like they were using tin and they were using copper. Copper actually doesn't work. If you look on the bottom of an older Telecaster pickup, it will look copper, but it's actually copper plated steel. So it really needs to be steel because it has to change the magnetic field. Now on a Tex-Mex pickup, and there are some other pickups out there too. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but Tex-Mex is the first one obviously that comes to mind because of the question and because they're pretty popular. Um, they don't have one on purpose, and they use a, as far as I could tell, it was an Alnico rod. And if somebody corrects me on that, it's just a different sounding pickup. It does sound different. Um, and for example, if you look at a Mexican telly from like the late 2000s, I think after 2006 ish, um, those are going to be ceramic rods with no magnet underneath and no metal base plate. And they sound telly-ish, but they definitely lack. Um, I think they lack bottom end because they just don't have the size of magnetic field that a regular tele pickup has. It's wider because of that magnetic field change because of the plate. So pretty interesting stuff. A couple questions from our time. Thank you for that question. I appreciate it. And thank you for supporting us on Patreon. I do appreciate that. Our timeline questions, of course, I post this a couple days ahead of this live show. So a couple questions over here. Why not use a Floyd Rose style string retainer bar instead of string trees on a Tele or a Strat? That's a great question. I will take it. I will see your Floyd Rose retainer bar question and I will raise you. Why does anybody use string trees at all? If you cut the nut right, you don't need them. And it depends on the neck though. If like on a 7 1/4 radius fretboard, with a really thin fretboard, so it's the difference between the fretboard surface and the peg head surface that makes all the difference. If they're too close, then you might need string trees. If they're far enough away, we use 10 and 12-inch radius fretboards, and I don't feel the need to use string trees. The pine telly that's sitting over here, I don't have string trees on it. Um, I don't use them at all. The reason I would not use a Floyd Rose retainer bar, to answer your question specifically, is because you will add friction and therefore tuning instability to strings that it is not necessary to do it with, because it goes all the way across. So, and actually on a telly, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, like on a telly, for example, you wouldn't really have room, and it would really make all the angles really super extreme, and you would introduce a bunch of friction. The guitar wouldn't stay in tune as easy. That's the biggest thing. I don't like them. I don't use them at all. I don't use string trees at all unless I really, really have to. Um, but you can. There's a lot of good tuners out there now, for example, that are the tuning posts are offset or they're short enough that it makes it easy to do any of this stuff without having string retainer bars. So that's a good question though. But I would stay away from, when it comes to tuning stability, friction is the problem. So stay away from anything that introduces extra friction to the strings. I know a lot of people like to put felt in, behind their tailpieces on Bigsby's. I know a lot of people there's a lot of little Band-Aid things, but a lot of times it's just friction at the nut. So make sure that you fix that and everything's good. And that, as far as the peg head angle thing, as long as your fretboard is 10 or 12 inches in radius, if it's a 7 1/4, it's possible that you might need one because the fretboard is lower on the edges. So super interesting stuff though. What's my opinion on trisonic style pickups? Tone, construction, who makes good ones? I will tell you, I do not know. I don't have an opinion worth sharing. I think they sound awesome. They're really cool. Um, I never wanted to make them. I never cared about them because they're really difficult to make. As far as I can tell, it doesn't look fun to me. And I don't know who makes good ones because I'm not familiar with them, to tell you the truth. I've played, I want to say 2 or 3 guitars with Trisonics, and they sound awesome, like I said, but I just don't know. So I'm going to tell you I don't know when I don't know. Let's see. Opinion on hot rails style pickups. I personally love how mine sound, especially in the middle position. So I need to do a video on these because I want to show the difference in the magnetic field between a rail style pickup with a bar, like a rail magnet pole in it, versus individual ones. They are fine. I mean, we make a humbucker for a particular guitar brand. I don't sell them publicly, but we make they're 2 rails, and they're gnarly. You can introduce a pretty big voltage with them. You can make a lot of voltage. You can make a really powerful pickup with them. And I think that's one of the reasons why they use them in those style pickups, plus space. Are they going to have as much definition between the strings and clarity? Probably not. But are most people going to care because they want that particular format in that guitar? See, that's the thing. A lot of people get super hung up on the particular aspects of this particular shape of this magnetic field. Is it going to give me clarity between the strings? And we're going to talk about this in a little bit. They're going to listen really hard and they're going to tell themselves, well, this has more highs, or this has less highs, or this doesn't have the definition between the strings as I want. They're going to listen really hard and they're going to tell themselves something. But the bottom line is, do you want a humbucker that fits in that hole, or do you want a single coil that fits in that hole? Do you want the compromise? That's why I call them compromise pickups. Do you want the are you willing to take the compromise to fit what you want in the hole that fits in that guitar? That's all there is to it. And there's no point in arguing about the finer points of what they do or how they work. If you want a humbucker that fits in a Strat hole or a Tele hole, then that's what you do. It's to me that's it's not really like my opinion on a specific sound or how it sounds or what it does or any of that kind of stuff. Um, how they work, it's cool, and yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll make a video on them. I think I have the parts to do that in the shop. I'll put that one together over the next few weeks, and in fact, I'm going to add that to my list right now. Um, while we're talking, because, but I think people again, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit because it has to do with this Telecaster test we just did. People need to zoom out and not worry so much about those finer details, and just, do I need a humbucker? Okay, then, and I have this guitar and I don't want to cut a hole in it. I'm going to put a humbucker in it. Does it sound exactly like a PAF? No. Is there any reason in going out and trying to find one that sounds like a PAF? No, because I know that it fits in this hole and it's not a PAF. You know what I mean? Like it's not really there's no reason to get all super technical about it. We can, and we do, right? Like in videos and explaining and stuff. But when you're really sitting there, we do it for the purposes of these nerdy videos, but when you're playing on Friday night in a bar or even in your bedroom hanging out with your friends, or you're in your playing room, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? So that's really the thing. Let me make sure we didn't get any super chats in here yet. Nope, no super chats yet. It doesn't look like. So we're gonna move on with our. Thanks for chiming in, everybody. I see it all there. We got people from all over the place. What is your opinion on a Tele neck pickup and a Strat? I've got a Tele neck pickup that sounds pretty Stratty. If you want it, let me know. Works good. Australia, New York City, etc., etc. This is super cool. Awesome. All right. So let's discuss this Tele test that we did, where we took this guitar. I've got it sitting over here. We've got this guitar, this Tele with a bridge where we could go from string through to top loader. What was the difference between the sound? Could you tell the difference between the sound? So let's get into a couple of aspects of this test that I wanted to cover. One is a lot of people, well, I got a few people actually. Everybody's always critical for some reason of the way we do tests. So we're going to talk about that first. One is, I had a couple people say, you used different guitars and didn't tell us, basically saying that I lied to them. So here's what I did. I put on our Patreon both audio clips and videos, and I didn't edit anything. The only thing I edited was I just put a title up to tell you what it was. And it is on Patreon. So you can go to patreon.com/DylanTalksTone and you can watch the full uncut videos of both. Like when I made that video and we put up on top of it, there was like, here's your top loader bridge, here's your string through bridge. And underneath it, it was like, this is sample 1, this is sample 2, this is sample 3 through 7. And the idea was, and maybe I wasn't clear enough on this, the idea was that you were supposed to pick, was it 1, 6, 7 was the top loader, 2, 4, whatever was the, that's what you were supposed to do. And so a few things interesting about this. One is, again, people said that we were cheating and didn't do it right. So I put over on Patreon those uncut videos. So you can go watch that and listen for yourself and see for yourself that we did it legit, okay? Number one. Number two, we had a lot of people say that I was a jerk for not making it clean because I said that nobody plays clean, and that's not true. You're right, it's not true. Some people do play clean. However, the majority of people who play an electric guitar do not play a perfectly clean tone. They just don't. Even if they think they do. If you play any amp under, we'll call it 20 to 30 watts, tube amp especially, or even 40 watts, at volume, you are not clean. Period. It's just the way it is. If you play a blues junior, you're almost never clean. If you play anything under probably 40 watts at club volume, you're not clean. Period. Because of the way it works. So you're going to be a little crunchy. And it's just reality. And I think that's why, even if you don't play with pedals, because the amp just starts to break up. I mean, it does. And I feel like most of these tests that people do on the internet just aren't realistic. I just don't feel like they're real life. And I feel like what we want to do is show real life. And I think that's why we do it. And I think it's really important because a lot of people, so here's the thing about this, is a lot of people were like super, well, two things happened. And this is why we do these videos this way. Because there's a few people like, it makes me mad that you didn't put the results in the same video and you made us wait. Well, the reason I didn't is because here's what happens. Either somebody can't tell the difference and they're not afraid to admit it. This happens a lot. What happens is, and you'll see it in the comments, you can go back and look for yourself. What will happen is players will get in the comments and they will be like, yeah, well, I could definitely tell the difference. All right, well then put your numbers down, like what you think is what, and they won't do it. Because they're afraid to commit and they're afraid to be wrong. Other people are like, yeah, this one had more highs in it, this one had less highs in it, blah, 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 and here is my answer, and this is why. And they're completely wrong. And then there are other people like, can you give us uncompressed wave files so that we can tell the difference? Because with YouTube compression, I can't really tell. If you have to listen that hard and you have to like, okay, in these particular conditions, I can tell the difference, but no other time. Why are we even caring about this? And that is the number one point of this entire thing. It doesn't matter. If you have to listen that hard, it doesn't matter. I mean, come on, man. If you have to have exactly these particular conditions for something to be a certain way, it's so funny. And there's so many things like that. The Tonewood thing, string brands, certain, I don't know, bridge styles, saddle styles. It's all about, and we'll get to some other particulars of it in a minute. I'll give you the result of it, and you can go back and watch these later. But samples 1, 4, and 5 were the top loader bridge, and the rest of them were string through. So samples 1, 4, and 5 were the top loader, and the rest of them were string through. I think one person got this right, and I would venture a guess that if I scrambled them up and gave them to him again, he'd probably get them wrong. It's literally, there's no way to tell. A lot of people ask me, because it's hard, obviously I couldn't tell you through YouTube how the feel was. They felt basically the same. The only feel difference that I really like could tell you for sure that there was a difference in feel was when I changed bridge strings and went from top loader, because I did the top loader test first. So if you go watch the video on Patreon, you'll see it's first, and then the string through is second. So when we switched from top loader to string through, and I went to adjust the intonation a little bit. So when you put brand new strings on a guitar, the strings will curve over the saddles until they settle in and like bend down to where they're supposed to be under tension. And they did that a little differently from one bridge to the next because of the way the angle behind it. As a result of that, I had to adjust the intonation just a little, just because of the way the string breaks over the saddle. So if it breaks over the saddle this way and it breaks over the saddle this way, the way that string behaves right there means that you have to probably adjust the intonation just a touch. And I think I had to pull it back a little bit, pull it towards the saddles just a little tiny, like a couple, like this much. I mean, it wasn't that much, but I did nevertheless have to adjust it. When I did that, I could tell you that the top loader had less tension, because I know you're not supposed to, but I do it all the time and it doesn't hurt anything. I adjust my intonation with the strings under tension when I can. And the top loader was easier to move the saddles, telling me that there was a little less down pressure on the saddles. Could you feel it when you were playing? I mean, maybe, I guess a little, but, and I'm pretty, so here's the other thing about this test that I think is dumb. I'm just gonna say it. Everybody said, there's a lot of people, you talk to them about playing guitar and they're like, I can only play. They say that. I can only play this particular neck radius. I can only play this particular fret size. I can only play this particular string gauge. I don't even want to play this particular string gauge, this particular fret size, this particular neck. This neck is too fat. I can't play it. I believe, and this is 100% opinion, I personally believe that you should be able to play whatever somebody puts in your hand. And it shouldn't make that much difference. And that in about 15, 20 minutes playing, you should be able to play whatever you want to play. I'm that person. I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm not saying I'm a good guitar player or anything. I am saying that I don't care what's in my hands as long as it's set up properly. That being said, I can feel stuff pretty particularly. I mean, I do this every day. And it's hard to tell the difference between the two. I mean, I do this all the time, and it's very difficult to tell the difference between the two. And I think that you should not make a choice between two guitars. I think you should just play them both and see how they feel to you. It doesn't make that much difference. It really doesn't. It doesn't make that much difference in the sound. It doesn't make that much difference in the tone. In the feel at all. Let's see here really quick. Yeah. I mean, it's just such an interesting thing, but it's not really, So that leads me to a couple other things I want to talk about, because this keeps coming up. This whole idea of these A/B tests. This is why I don't do them. And it's funny because I get these comments on YouTube videos, and I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to give anybody more glory than they deserve, but I get a lot of comments that are like, you're super condescending about this stuff, and you don't respect other people's opinions and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I hope everybody at this point grabs their cup of coffee and just sits down. We're all hanging out and we're chatting together. And I would hope that you would understand that if you were sitting in these chairs with me across the table, that we would be just having this conversation like we are uh, right now. Okay? Um, that's what we're doing. We're all friends. And for those of you that are online that have met me in person at NAM shows and stuff like that, you know that's how I am. You know, I'll buy you a beer just like the next guy. I don't care if you hated me online or not. Because um, I personally believe that people that make stupid comments online, um, they wouldn't say those things to my face in person. And if they did, I would have an actual conversation with them about it. It doesn't bother me at all. However, the reason I'm bringing this up is not to call out haters online. The reason I'm bringing this up is to talk to all of us as a community about what this does to the guitar playing community in general. Um, these kind of tests and the people that get online and think they know everything, even though it doesn't really matter, and then say, "Well, you're being condescending because you don't respect my opinion. You don't think I play clean. You don't think, you know, you sound like a jerk when you talk about this stuff." What I'm really doing, there's a couple things I'm doing here. One is I'm just having a conversation like you would be sitting here with me. I don't care where you're from. I don't care who you are. Doesn't matter. I treat you all the same. Um, just like we're friends hanging out talking about guitar stuff. The other thing though that I think needs to be brought up, and I think that every guitar player needs to think about this, is that this whole guitar tone thing has literally become like a religion. Um, I mean, an electric guitar is based on physical properties. It's based on science, and it's all duplicatable. And what is not is therefore not true. So I don't tell you, I would never tell you that I don't think that, for example, tone wood doesn't make a difference in the electric guitar. I wouldn't say that because I don't know. But what I do know is that there is no scientific evidence to prove it thus far. And until somebody gives me that, I'm not going to tell you that it does. All the things that we talk about on this channel are based on physics. The reason it may sound condescending to you from time to time is because chances are I am challenging a belief system that you have held for a long time. And that is a problem on the internet in general. It just is. Not without getting into politics or social issues or anything like that. We know that it's a problem. That if I tell you this is wrong because of science says it right here, and you're going to be like, yeah, but I played a guitar that, and you give me some sort of anecdotal evidence that doesn't mean anything, and I challenge that belief for you, you're going to take it as condescending because I'm telling you something you don't want to hear. And that is why we don't have 2 million subscribers on this channel, because that's what I do for a living. That being said, if you were hanging around with me and we had a Kemper sitting here and we had a guitar and we sat down and you're like, I don't like this Kemper, I don't like this top loader bridge, I'd be like, I get it. I get the reason why you choose something different than me. It don't bother me. But if you challenge me with some sort of belief that is not science and some sort of, yeah, but my friend has a whatever, and take that as what you believe, and I say, here you go, here's the science, and you feel convicted by that, that's not me. That's just, we're putting out facts. And if it sounds negative, I mean, yeah, I hate to tell you, but that's kind of how reality works. And the fact that people, I mean, if we were sitting here and you're like, I don't think the moon landing is real. I think Sasquatch is real. I saw him the other day. I would not speak to you in a condescending way, even though I would laugh at you at first, because I think it's funny. Then I would initially laugh at you and think it's funny, and then be like, okay, what evidence do you have that the Sasquatch is real, or that the moon landing was faked, or that the earth is flat? Give it to me straight. Where is the science? Show me. And if you can give me something that's real, we will have a great conversation about it, and maybe I will learn something. To this point, flat earth, fake moon landing, Sasquatch, Tonewood, nobody's given me any of that. So we continue to challenge what we know. And the thing is that material sciences in the 21st century and everything has moved on from the 40s, and guitars can be better. They can be made out of different stuff. We can explore. And the reason we explore things and we learn things and we know new things and we invent new things and things change and we have a Kemper and we have Richlight and we have all these things that all the old traditional people hate is because somebody pushed the envelope and they jumped outside of their own belief system. They used some science. They said, hey, I think I can push this thing forward. And they did it. And that's why we have progress. It is. And the people who feel that they're being talked down to are the people that are still kind of in the Stone Age with all this stuff and haven't stepped forward with it all. And somebody tells them there's something better or tells them that this will work better despite what you believe. That's why. I mean, I get it. I feel like somebody talks down to me if they're way smarter than me about something and I don't know about it, but I don't feel talked down to. I just be like, oh, I guess I better learn something here because I need to learn something here, right? And that's what we do. So that's why I want to talk about this, because I think this whole concept, in this whole tone snobbery thing, you hear me talk about it all the time, you know. So yeah, let's here. Let me go through some of these comments really fast. Unless you use a super chat, I might not get to every little thing in here. Let's see, because you guys are going fast. To me, they sounded different. One was brighter than the other. I mean, put your money where your mouth is and test it. But now we give out the results. So I got confused on the tele samples. Some were less articulate and more blended. My guess the top loader is the more muddy and less articulate, more of a walled off noise than individual strings. Wrong. I mean, honestly, it didn't matter. It's playing style. You can change it with your pick. You can change it with how you palm mute. You can change it, all that stuff. Honestly. Let's see. I'm already tired of people demanding that it be clean during comparisons. I've been learning to play for 4 weeks. I love you, man. Let's see. Clean can be confusing. It can. It absolutely can. That's exactly right. I love how you're calling out the critical naysayers. I mean, here's the other thing too about this. Okay, here's the other thing. I don't care what people say on the internet. Like, Ding Dong 123 saying that he doesn't like me in a comment has no impact on my life whatsoever. Um, on one hand. On the other hand, I also know that each person who's commenting is a person. And I think the people that comment, this is my favorite part, especially the ones that get real personal. Like they'll get put in comments, be like, is this guy like half retarded? Is he half slow? I had a guy ask me that last night. Put that in a comment. I'm like, what evidence do you have? What brings you to what brings you to that conclusion? And feel free to elaborate on that. Like I'm not paying attention. Like I'm not a person who pays attention. It's like you put comments out in the world and they just are out there. No, there's a person on the other side of that. And I personally remember that every viewer, 29,000 subscribers, we have like 3 million views on this channel now. Every person is a person who lives somewhere. And this is why we do these live things, to make sure that we connect with people, that's why I love this, right? That we can have these conversations as best as possible. And hopefully at some point, you know, we'll run into each other somewhere. I was in Reno, this is just a little aside, but I was in Reno, Nevada. I think I was in Reno, Nevada on vacation with my family like 2 years ago. We were in like I don't know, Taco Bell or something, having lunch somewhere. Del Taco. It was a Del Taco, having lunch. And some random guy just walked up to me and he's like, hey, I wasn't wearing a shirt or anything, or a hat or anything. He's like, hey, are you Dylan from Dylan Talks Stone? I was like, yeah. He's like, I watch every one of your videos, man. It's nice to meet you. And then I followed him, like he commented and stuff, and I've had lunch with a few of you as we've run into you around the country and stuff. I'd love to do it more. I'd love to do it more. So super cool, And I think this is where we need to put the connection back into this instead of just yelling on the internet. Super fun. Graph Tech is great stuff. It is. It's absolutely great stuff. It's all I use. Let's see. I'm cruising down through here just to see if there's any extra questions that we need to answer before we let you go. Aged wood is a marketing strategy. Yes. Can you do a tone wood test? I'm working on that. I actually am working on that. But I want it to be right. If it takes me 2 years to figure it out, it's gonna take that time. This flat earth thing. I don't believe anything, I just go with what sounds pleasing to me. Exactly. But don't tell me that it's a fact. Tell me that you like it. See what I'm saying? Don't tell me it's a fact. Don't tell me I play this because science says that the tone wood says that the whatever says whatever. Say, I like it, so that's the way I play it. Boom, done. Oh, hang on, we got a super chat in here. Hello from Savannah, I just want to say that I love this content. Keep up the good work. You're in Savannah. Dude, hit me up. We go to Savannah quite a bit, actually. 3 or 4 times a year. Hit me up. Maybe we'll have a cup of coffee or something. Yeah, it's only a few hours from me, so. Yeah, no, that's killer, dude. All right, there we go. And thanks for the super chat, Phil. I appreciate that very much. Every little bit helps us keep going, So we're using on the Patreon side right now. What I'm doing, all the money that comes into the Patreon, I am using to buy some pickups to do tests with. I want to do some active stuff, and I want to do. So everybody has been talking about these PRS tuned capacitance, whatever they are, pickups, TCI, tuned capacitance and inductance pickups. They're very expensive, and let's face it, I'm going to take them apart. So I'm going to use the money from Patreon as it saves up, because I think we're at like 10 patrons or something right now, so it's not a lot of money right now, but I'm using that money to save up for buying those pickups, taking them apart, so the world can know what's inside. That's what we're doing. Yeah, man. Cool. Where are you located again? Right now, I am in Grove. I'm in right outside of Augusta, Georgia. Basically. Yep. Hello from Australia. I've talked to hundreds of people after performing and saying they can't even tell if you mess up. Okay, so yes. However, you gotta feel good when you're playing. If a guitar doesn't connect with you, if you don't connect with that guitar, then then you're not going to play well. So it's not just about the drunk people, because I do get that reasoning. Like, nobody cares. Everybody's drunk. It doesn't matter what your guitar's made out of. But at the same time, if that thing, I've had bad nights where everybody was having fun, but I've had a bad night because the guitar wouldn't stay in tune, or maybe I had a little buzz I didn't like, or something just didn't feel right on the guitar, and you don't play very well because of that. And so the guitar has to be right, and it has to feel right. But I think people focus on the wrong stuff. People will blame, oh, this is a mahogany dark guitar. I didn't connect with it. No, you just didn't set it up right. No, you didn't put enough time into making sure that the guitar was how you needed it to be before you played it. I mean, so, and maybe that's not it. But I think a lot of people tell themselves stuff to make themselves happy with stuff, or tell themselves that they need something based on what somebody else has. My favorite posts, and we'll let you go because this is totally just hanging out and has nothing to do with anything meaningful. But my favorite posts on Facebook groups and forums and stuff are the ones that are like, "Hey, I just bought this pedal. Does everybody like it? Hey, I just bought this guitar. What do you think?" Like, just trying to justify a purchase afterwards. And if everyone hates it, are you gonna not like it anymore? Like, why are you asking that question? It's sort of funny. Where I hope that what our content does is kind of like beforehand, like, well, I haven't ordered this pedal yet. I haven't ordered this guitar yet. I haven't tried these strings yet. Um, Hopefully, this technical information that we just learned on Dylan Talks Tone will, all right, I'm going to narrow it down to these 2 or 3 sets of strings, and I'm going to go give them a shot. I'm not going to bother with messing around with my bridge anymore because it doesn't sound like it makes that much difference. Or hopefully it goes the other way. Hopefully it's the opposite. Hopefully you're like, oh, actually, I have one of these top loader bridges on my telly. I'm going to buy a couple of sets of cheap strings and I'm going to try it for myself. Hopefully that is the result of all of this stuff. Not just screwing around with all this little nerdy stuff, but hopefully you go try it yourself. Also, we're going to give away um, let's see, the end of next week, I guess. Maybe in the next live show. Well, whatever let me look at the calendar. So we're going to give away, yes, next Thursday, we're going to give away our guitar setup kit. So we're going to pick a winner before next Thursday, and then I'm going to announce the winner next Thursday. So we're going to do that. Ask him about elixirs. I hate elixirs. Dylan, do you do any gigs anymore? I do. When um, when I get called to. I'm not right now. I'm not playing in a band who's gigging every weekend. I play with a few guys who have combinations of bands. Everybody, of course, in every town, there's like a guy who plays with, you know, 5 different bands. Drummers play with everybody, bass players play with everybody. But there's a couple of guys that I do play with who are on a couple of different projects, and they will call me in and be like, "Hey, can you come play this gig with us Friday?" And I know the material, and I'll go and sit in with them. Um, those are guys that I played with in bands full time, twice a week for a long time, for years. But I'm so busy and we're traveling so much. I would love to play more. My problem is that I cannot dedicate the time with any certainty. For those of you that don't know, I have a spinal injury, and so I'm in constant pain every day. And with the weather changes, like for example, it's been raining solid for like the last 2 weeks. I've been in extreme pain, like a lot of pain. And so it's really hard for me to say on the 23rd of next month, I'm going to have this gig. And on the 22nd of next month, have to make a bunch of pickups or have to shoot a video or something and just be totally trashed and can't go anywhere and there's some days I can't get out of bed. So it's hard for me to commit then to practicing once a week, playing a gig every weekend, doing all the regular things I need to do, keeping my family fed, because that doesn't feed you, for me anyway. This is what's important to keep the lights on. And so It's a priority thing. I wish I could play some more. I love to play, and what's really fun is playing a different guitar every gig. Like I'd build a guitar and go and play it, and then it would be gone, and then play another one and it'd be gone. So playing different stuff all the time is really fun. Um, but I wish I could do it more. But it's tough. It's really, really difficult. Sorry to hear about your spine. Get better soon. It won't ever get better. I have 4 fractures in my spine. I have 2 8-inch rods, 8 5-inch screws, 2 synthetic vertebrae. It's bad. So they gave me a 3% chance to walk. So I'm pretty grateful that I have what I have. So yeah, man. It's a tough one. It is a tough one. You guys, thanks for hanging out. This has been super fun. Thanks, Phil, for the super chat. I appreciate it. If everybody wants to go over to check out that thing on Patreon, it's pretty awesome. I want to do more of that stuff. I think we're going to try to do more. The next video for Patreon that I think I'm going to shoot is the final setup and adjustments on a customer's guitar that we built. It is something I've never done before. This guitar is something I've never ever done. The combination is something I've never done. The construction, it's very, very cool. And so I will probably shoot the kind of final walkthrough and look around that guitar, and I will put that on Patreon so you can check it out so that it doesn't mud up this stuff over here. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. This has been cool, and we will talk to you all. Make sure that you make sure that you comment on the video, all that sort of stuff. Comment on all these videos because we're giving this stuff away next week, next Thursday. And that's it. I appreciate it. And go watch the stuff on Patreon now that you know what the answers are. You're going to be like, oh, yeah, I get it. All right, man. We'll see y'all.